Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Naeem Badiuzzaman. As always, I pray that Ramadan finds you well, safe, and in the state of worship and service to community. So, for almost everyone on this call and an overwhelming majority on my side today, it's the last day of Ramadan. We bid it farewell. Tomorrow we join family, loved ones, neighbors, very important, neighbors, especially where we live, and wider community in celebrating Eid. The reason I mention neighbors is because we spend a lot of time inviting people who we know, people, from our background, from faraway places, and completely overlook the people who are next door and who we see every day, who have a bigger right on our hospitality than others far away. We do that for purpose of convenience, similar background, maybe we may be knowing each other from childhood, but it's important that when we join people for Eid, we remember our neighbors. And then, of course, the wider community, be it the mosque, be it the local area that you are, or people from the office or from business, or people that you play games with in celebrating Eid. So there's so much importance attached to being part of the celebration, so much like Eidgah as a concept is encouraged. And even exemptions for Ramadan, like for example, when if it is a time of the month, women are exempted from fasting and praying. In this case, it's actually the reverse, where they're actually encouraged to come and attend so they don't miss out on the celebrations. So the presence is also highly encouraged. So there's a lot of importance attached to being part of the celebrations. So the world over, we will celebrate Eid this weekend, and when we celebrate, let's also remember those who don't have the luxury to celebrate, and not just the poor, but because they are in conflict zones, because their family members are arrested on false charges, because of families, including children, who are attacked because of their Muslim identity, activists and students in jail for questioning corruption, etc. So let us remember them also. So when we are celebrating, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us permission to celebrate. And when we celebrate, I think it is important that we are grateful for the glad tidings that we have, but also remember those who are not as fortunate as us. So on the last call that I had the privilege of joining you, we ended it with 2 points as takeaways, and we closed on 2 specific points. So one was to remember that actions are judged by their endings, where that special prayer of O servant of Allah, Ramadan is ending and very little of it remains, and whoever you spent it well should finish it the same way, and whoever is falling behind, like myself, should finish it in the best manner, for the reward of actions are determined by their ending. So remember, Allah is watching, and this is a time when the angels are praying for you until you break your fast. The second one was to start on your post-Ramadan plan. I'm very happy that, during the call, Hasib mentioned that there's a lot of discussions that are going on a post-Ramadan. So I have a suggestion that perhaps you could consider, and maybe it is something for people in wider Europe also to consider. The context of this is, you all remember how we are being repeatedly taught about the kindness that we need to show to orphans, and the right that orphans have, and the strict warning on actually usurping the right or misusing the trust that we have in looking after. And I think it's only to remember that our Rasul was also one. So there is this particular emphasis in our great faith in taking care of those who are vulnerable, and orphans being exceptionally vulnerable, being children, and also being having no one to necessarily protect them or look after them. So the suggestion that I have is, and maybe this is a part of your post-Ramadan plan, is that there are orphanages in Europe, there are orphanages in India, and orphanages in Africa, and who and where we decide is completely dependent on the logistics. What I would like for you to consider is start an appeal to collect used toys that you have, and these are not toys that you're throwing away. These are toys that you and your young children have outgrown and are still in very, very good condition. Start it as an appeal, and then have them ready to be shipped in time for Eid al-Adha to these orphanages in these places. Perhaps this is one small project that we can take. And if Velicham Europe takes the initiative, what will happen is it will start encouraging people to think of what differences that they can make. And also there is a milestone, that is the next Eid. Remember, I talked about continuing the relationship that we have based on the good deeds that we do in Ramadan. Consider this as one of your targets. So I thought, this would be something that we could actually consider doing after the end of. I did not want to focus too much on subjects about the benefits of Ramadan, not because it is not useful, but I thought this is an opportunity for us to continue the spirit of Ramadan. And before I close, I thought I'll do a small exercise with all of you. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to share my screen if I am able to, and ask you if you are aware, and maybe we can do this as an exercise, is, are you aware of the way that Ramadan Mubarak is said in the many languages around the world? So you have Ramazan Ayniz Mubarak also, as in for those in Turkey. I thought it's useful to know because it's important as a global faith. We are also aware of what people elsewhere also use in actually wishing. This is what is, I thought this is useful given that we are in Europe, is Felicia Ramadan for their Ramadan Mubarak. Salamat Marpasa. What I'm trying to arrive at is, and I'll show you one more, is we are an exceptionally inclusive faith because we are a faith for the world. And this should tell us that we have a responsibility to the whole world. And when we have a responsibility towards the whole world, we start with the ones that are the most vulnerable. And this is where I now go back. This time I spoke to you about orphans. The previous time I spoke to you about mosques in these countries where do not have government support. And before that, I spoke to you about supporting Muslims who have found faith recently and have joined the faith recently. I hope, Ya Allah, that today we end this session by remembering the immense bounty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And hopefully, there is an opportunity for you to consider this humble suggestion that I said, wherein we kickstart an initiative to bring happiness to children in orphanages, because we remember Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam at a very young age what he suffered. Maybe this is our opportunity to bring a smile, and what better time to do it in the next Eid. And with this, I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.